On March 17 night, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, taking the coverage of darkness, had to flee the Potala Palace from the capital city of Tibet, Lhasa. Over 2 weeks, he traveled through the treacherous mountains of Tibet and reached India on March 31st of 1959. When I went to Arunachal Pradesh, I saw the place, I saw the road through which His Holiness Dalai Lama and few Tibetans came to Tawang, the capital of Arunachal Pradesh. Soon 80,000 Tibetans followed His Holiness the Dalai Lama to exile in India. After the occupation of Tibet, Chinese government, the Communist government of China, destroyed 98% of monasteries and nunneries, disrobed 100% of monks and nuns of Tibet. Through the Cultural Revolution and through the Great Leap Forward, more than 1 million Tibetans died because of direct occupation of Tibet and repression of Tibetans under the communist rule. However, over 57 years, Tibetans inside and outside Tibet fought hard, struggled hard. Even today, the spirit of Tibetans are strong. The dignity and identity of Tibetans are strong because through the ashes of destruction of monasteries and nunneries, Tibetans in Tibet have rebuilt the monasteries and nunneries. Tibetans in exile have rebuilt the major monasteries and nunneries destroyed under the occupation of Tibet. Today, as we move around the world, international community recognizes that there is human rights violation in Tibet. The Freedom House report of 2016 listed Tibet among the last country where there is freedom after Syria. Syria is only place where there is violation of human rights, and Tibet is listed after Syria. And Human Rights Watch report clearly says that there is an ongoing surveillance, ongoing restriction on the movements of Tibetan people. And environmental organizations have documented that the grasslands, the mountains of Tibet are destroyed. Forests are cut down. Mineral resources are exploited. Dams are built illegally and unscientifically. Major environmentalists say that the 50% of glaciers of Tibet have already melted. According to NASA, another 50% will disappear in next 50 years, which means by 2100, 82% of glaciers of Tibet would have melted. Now, this is a major crisis for the world because Tibet is also called the roof of the world, because Tibet is also the third largest reserve of ice. After Antarctica and Arctic, Tibet is called the third pole. Because of these 46,000 glaciers, it provides fresh water. It forms rivers. 10 major rivers of Asia flow from Tibet. The Satluj and Indus River, which flow from Tibet to Jammu and Kashmir to Pakistan. Brahmaputra River, from Tibet to Assam through northeast to Bangladesh, which is the lifeline for Assam and Bangladesh. Mekong River, Yangtze River of China, the Yellow River of China, all flow from Tibet. Tibet provides fresh water, and 1.4 billion people survive or depend on the Tibetan rivers. If these glaciers melt this fast, what would happen to all these countries? Because as far as data is concerned, China has 19% of the world population, but only 12% of fresh water. which means 7%, equivalent of 400 million Chinese, are already facing scarcity of fresh water. Now, situation in Bangladesh is worse. Situation in India is worse. Situation in Pakistan is worse. If Tibet dries up, the glaciers of Tibet melt this fast, these countries will be deprived of fresh water. Then what would happen to this region? Hence, Tibet is not only important for 6 million Tibetans, but Tibet is vital for 1.4 billion people in Asia. Tibet is vital for the climate and the environment of the whole world. Hence, importance of Tibet, it is also the importance of the whole world. Spiritually speaking, the ancient civilization of Tibetan Buddhism once thrived. The mountains and valleys of Tibet is being restricted. Even the photograph of His Holiness Dalai Lama is banned. If you are caught with the photograph of His Holiness Dalai Lama in Tibet, you could go to prison. Your family will suffer. Your community will suffer. This is what is going on in Tibet. Some people say that Lhasa today is turned into a virtual prison. There are sharpshooters on rooftops of the buildings of Lhasa. The troops are moving up and down. Tibetans in Tibet are in fear as to when they will be arrested for some excuse or the other. This is what is happening. That's why the Freedom House has listed Tibet as the least free country in the world after Syria. Now, under the leadership of His Holiness Dalai Lama, as per his vision, Tibetan administration has formulated middle way as the policy. Middle way is a win-win proposition for the Chinese government and for the Tibetan people, because what we seek is genuine autonomy within China, within the framework of the Chinese constitution. But the Chinese government accuse us of other things. But the White House, under President Obama, has applauded and supported the middle way approach in 2014. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi led a US Congress delegation to Tibet and urged the Chinese government to enter into dialogue with the envoys of the Dalai Lama. Even the President of the European Council, Donald Tusk, told Chinese Prime Minister Li Keqiang that they must solve the issue of Tibet through dialogue. President Obama in September, when we met President Xi Jinping at the Rose Garden press conference, told him that Chinese government must enter into dialogue either with the Dalai Lama or its representative to solve the issue of Tibet. So hence the international community, the governments around the world support the middle way approach, urge dialogue with the Chinese government. And hence we believe, as per the vision of His Holiness Dalai Lama, middle way is the right way. The Chinese leaders should learn about it. Chinese leaders should come around and sit on the table with the envoys of the Dalai Lama to resolve the issue of Tibet. So today is also the March 10th, National Uprising Day. And recently, the Chinese government has been making some claims about the reincarnation of the 14th Dalai Lama. This we want to make it clear. As far as the reincarnation of His Holiness Dalai Lama is no one's business. It's His Holiness the Dalai Lama to determine who the next Dalai Lama should be. Chinese government claiming to have some kind of right over the reincarnation of Dalai Lama is like Fidel Castro of Cuba claiming to have right to appoint the Pope and expecting Catholics around the world to believe and follow, which will not happen. Similarly, the Dalai Lama's reincarnation will be determined by His Holiness Dalai Lama and no one else. Chinese government does not have any legitimacy because they destroyed 98% of monasteries and nunneries. They disrobed 100% of monks and nuns. With that kind of track record, what kind of right they have in interfere in religious matters? They have no credibility because they criticize His Holiness Dalai Lama every day and night. They ban the photograph of His Holiness Dalai Lama and then they claim to have right to select the next Dalai Lama, which is a blatant lie. So as far as the reincarnation of His Holiness Dalai Lama, he himself has issued a statement in September 2011, which I would like to read it out to you. I quote, "When I am about 90, I will consult the High Lamas of Tibetan Buddhist traditions, the Tibetan public, and other concerned people who follow Tibetan Buddhism, and re-evaluate whether the institution of Dalai Lama should continue or not. On that basis, we will take a decision. If it is decided that the reincarnation of Dalai Lama should continue, and there is a need for the 15th Dalai Lama to be recognized, responsibility for doing so will primarily rest on concerned officers of the Dalai Lama's Ganden Phorang Trust. They should consult the various heads of the Tibetan Buddhist traditions and reliable oath-bound Dharma protectors who are linked inseparably to the lineage of the Dalai Lamas. They should seek advice and direction from these concerned beings and carry out the procedure of search and recognition in accordance with past tradition. I shall leave clear instruction about this. Bear in mind that apart from the reincarnation recognized through such legitimate methods, no recognition or acceptance should be given to a candidate chosen for political ends by anyone, including those in PRC. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama has made his view very clear on the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama. Let me end by saying, from the valleys of Lhasa, through the lakes of Amdo, through the rivers of Kham, and through the forests of Kongbo, history is witness that there is injustice in Tibet. The human rights is violated. The environment is destroyed of Tibet. However, the gods and deities of Tibet are witness. The basic freedom of the Tibetan people will prevail, because truth will prevail in the end. With that, I pray that His Holiness live very long. The good news is, in few days, His Holiness will return to Dharamsala after having a very successful medical treatment, and we will see him healthy and happy in few days, and we will all join to welcome him. May His Holiness the Dalai Lama live very, very long time, and may the aspirations and the wishes of the Tibetan people in Tibet be realized soon. Tuchanan, thank you.